Hi everyone, Sat here. First of all, let me just say a massive thank you to everyone who has been liking the videos, the YouTube videos, commenting on them, to everyone who's gone on Udemy, who's bought the course, and especially to you guys who have left such great ratings as well. That means a lot to me. I think it's helped a lot of other people kind of take a look at the course who don't know about who I am, who haven't seen my YouTube videos, and kind of join the fold, which is lovely, right? So I wanted to also give you an update because I just realized I haven't released a video for like 4 weeks, and some of you might have missed me. I hope anyway. But I wanted to let you know where I've been, what I've been doing. I love XR, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, and I've been doing a lot of stuff on augmented reality lately. But it doesn't mean that I don't look at VR, and it doesn't mean that I'm still not interested in other forms of XR. And last year, I spent most of that year working on Colossal Quest, a Daydream VR game, and it did not do as well as I would have liked, right? As in financially, downloads, all of that stuff. And one of the big reasons why is because I had so many issues with trying to get onto the store, which were actually kind of outside of my control. Made the app, tried to put it on the store, and then it got rejected because apparently there was issues with the close button not working properly on the app. But obviously, those of you who know how Unity work will know that the close button has got nothing to do with your code, or my code in this instinct. It's to do with Unity itself and the version. So that version wasn't correct, so then I had to upgrade, and that changed things to do with dependencies, and then there was another issue, and then finally I managed to get it on the store, and I had it on beta, and then and they accepted it, and then I pulled it out of beta, and then it got rejected again because I think they might have changed some of their rules, and apparently it didn't have there was like a back button issue now, and it was all this kind of weird stuff that had, like I said, it really didn't have anything to do with my game or my code. It's to do with the versions of Unity and the recommended versions of Unity. They weren't really being very clear, and obviously there's only a limit to how many times you can kind of try and work in a project before you just say, hang on a second, I've my resources have run dry now on this particular project. I have to cut my ties with it and move on to other things, and which is what I did. And it's always tough to do that when you put a lot of time and effort into a project, but I had to do that, right? And obviously I also kind of moved away from Daydream tutorials around that same time as well, and started to move into AR, and I started working with amazing organization, and it was all things have been fun, right? And I'd left Colossal Quest kind of where it was in the past. It's just a nice showcase to show people that I can work in it, and it opens doors, and it's great, but I kind of left it as it was. And then throughout this year I was being contacted by a company called We Are VR, or We AR VR, and they were asking me to port it across my Daydream VR game onto their PicoGoblin devices. And so finally, I had a little bit of time to work on that this last month. I decided to say yes and see what that would be like, and I have the comparison of what it was like to build in Daydream VR and what it was like to build on for the PicoGoblin, and I also have an understanding of the financial changes that kind of brings to me, right? And it won't be completely accurate because obviously I worked on the Daydream like a year ago now, really, when you think about it, maybe even longer ago than that. And the Pico is more current, so it won't be completely accurate, but I can still share those findings with you as well. I think that might be interesting, even though it's not directly a tutorial, but it might be interesting for you to see what maybe some of those finances look like down the road. So let me just first off say, it was really interesting working with VR in regards to the way they kind of treated me. They contacted me. They said, hey, we know that you have a game on the Daydream VR and would like to help you port it. And that was really nice, just as a nice beginning part of it. And then they said, hey, let's also give you a device. They sent me a Goblin Pico 1 to work on, which is similar to Daydream VR. It's a standalone VR device. So they sent it to my home, and they loaned it to me, I should say. But it's mine to use for the next 3 months while I kind of port it across. And the porting's complete, by the way. And then they got back to me, back and forth was really good in regards to development. Like, I got stuck a few times, I had to ask them, and they always got back to me, incredibly quickly, within a day. And then so far it's been really smooth, and they've been really supportive. So I've managed to get it onto their store. There's still some Q&A to do. And obviously it might fail that, and then they might have to get back to me, and that has happened a few times. But so far, the experience as a developer, as an indie developer, working with this organization versus working with the Daydream, kind of the Google team, has been a lot better in my opinion, right? Now I'm just a small guy, so I'm not like a big company. I think a lot of people listening here are probably in a similar situation to me. You don't have your own, you're not a huge team of people. You're probably just individuals, and you're trying to kind of do things in your spare time, or maybe you want to give this indie development a real shot. But the point is, we're probably in a similar boat in the sense of, maybe we just want to get games out there, right? So what was interesting for me is how these guys have kind of supported me a lot more. And it's interesting, since the game wasn't officially out on Daydream, but these guys still recognized it as having potential, and the guys at kind of Google didn't really help out as much. And also the other thing was, if you have a Daydream game, they were willing to even do the porting for me and just take an additional 10% cut. So usually when you put something on the Google store, or in this case the Pico store, what happens is they take 30% and you take 70% of revenue. In this case, if I didn't do the porting myself, if I didn't port the Daydream VR game experience onto Pico, they would do the porting for me, and they would take 40%, and I would keep 60% instead, which is only a 10% change. And to me, that would have been okay. I gave it a shot though, and I tried to do the porting myself, and I seem to have succeeded, which is good. So I guess I just wanted to share what that's like, because and I'm still on that journey of seeing the comparison of what it's like on a Daydream. But what's interesting for me is, like, I didn't really, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't really know about the PicoGoblin. I didn't know what the hell what it was really until these guys kind of pointed it out to me. I had kind of heard that there's so many VR headsets, so I'd kind of heard of it, but I hadn't really looked at it, didn't know what it looked like, couldn't really tell you who really uses it. So PicoGoblin was used a lot in Asia, apparently. I didn't know this again. And the store sells more in places like China, as opposed to the Google Daydream device. So the Asian markets is something I hadn't really looked at or really thought about. I just kind of was, when I first made the Colossal Quest, I just wanted to release it and just see what happened. And then I got to kind of experience it, and that was cool. And then of course I just wanted to make a VR game. I thought it would be fun. But I think it's going to be interesting to have this comparison. I want to share that with you. And I also, there was some difficulties porting it across from Daydream to Pico. There was some things that I struggled with. And there were some struggles I had with the source code that comes with the PicoGoblin, right? It wasn't as good as the Daydream VR, so I'm not going to say that everything's perfect and it's 100% better. There's some things that you can do better in development-wise with a Daydream device. So you can kind of connect the controller up. You can test easier in the Daydream while you're developing with a handset while you're still in the Unity environment, rather than the PicoGoblin. You really have to put it on the device, which is time consuming. Right now there are ways around that. There's some of you who've followed the AR Foundation tutorials will know that you can speed development up by having a way of kind of cheating that to some degree, and having like a fake environment inside Unity editor. But it's not really the same, right? So there's some pros and cons. But I think ultimately I'll have a really good idea of what that experience is like once that goes right ahead. And hopefully that game will be on the market for the PicoGoblin in by December, at the end of this month, so the end of November. So then that way I'll be able to see what that looks like, what the sales look like in December, and then in January I'll be able to kind of let you guys know, hey, look, it worked, and actually the PicoGoblin is a device that you should probably look at developing if you're a VR developer, and especially if you've already done something on the Daydream VR. Why not port it across to the PicoGoblin? I'll maybe even release a tutorial on how you can do that as well, if you like, if you're interested in that, because it will allow you to have more revenue, more eyes on your product, and I think that's something that's kind of important as well. It's all good, it's all great making tutorials and learning, but ultimately I think a lot of us want to do this professionally, and a big part of being a professional is getting paid for your work, not just showing it to people. So again, this is just kind of some thoughts. I'll let you know how things go. So far the experience has been really nice. It hasn't been perfect though, obviously, and I can go into that in more depth, but I've managed to kind of get past that. So if you were to then choose to develop on the PicoGoblin, I could share those kind of experiences and make your pathway a lot smoother by sharing all the sample code that I've made to save time as well. Okay, anyway, that's all I wanted to say to you guys. I am still working on AI Foundation. I am still working on augmented reality as well, so I will try and share some stuff going forwards. Thanks again for everything, and yeah, I'll speak to you guys soon.